Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Kuli English Podcast. So this episode is going to be uploaded on August 19th. So it's a Tuesday. Remember, all new episodes are always uploaded on Tuesday every week. So for this episode, and this is episode 19, I want to talk about awkwardness. So awkwardness, what is awkwardness? Awkwardness is like to feel awkward. Awkward meaning something kind of weird happens and it makes you feel a little bit uneasy. It's kind of a very general, vague word. It has multiple different meanings. In Japanese, it's probably something close to like kimazui, but you can use awkwardness for a lot of different situations. Like you can even use it for physical things, like, oh, this is an awkward fit. So for example, let's say you have like a pencil sharpener and you're trying to sharpen a pencil, but then the pencil's like too big or something. Oh, this is like an awkward fit. You can use it for things like that, whereas you can't really do that in Japanese for kimazui. So anyways, we won't talk too much about Japanese. This is an English podcast. And so what I want to do is I want to kind of like play a game in this podcast. So this whole podcast episode is just going to be me telling true stories about myself, and it's going to have increasing levels of awkwardness. And these are like true stories, so maybe it's a little bit more interesting for you to hear. If I were to make up these stories, it's going to be different. It'll be easier for me to tell it because I can make up lies and stuff. But I don't know, something about true stories makes it feel a little bit more human. So I want to play a game. And like the image of playing a game together is kind of like if we're playing Fortnite together, like, maybe we're in Discord together and then we play Fortnite, or maybe if we play some video game on the Nintendo Switch, like we sit on the couch, we watch TV, you hold the controller, I hold the controller, and then we like fight each other or something like that. But, this is a podcast, and a lot of the people that are listening to this probably have no idea who I am, and I have no idea who they are. And that's okay. But in this game, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be telling the stories. And then, I want you to think in your mind, like, how awkward is this? So on a scale of 1 to 10, meaning 1 is like super not awkward. Like that's a really, really small thing. It doesn't matter. That doesn't make you feel uncomfortable. That doesn't make you feel uneasy. That's nothing. Or on a scale of 1 to 10. So 10 meaning like, oh, that's very, very awkward. That's probably like a very, very, very uncomfortable situation. And, just go ahead and guess those. And I'll also give you my answer. So, I don't think that there's like a real answer, but it's just how I feel, how awkward it is for me. And, you'll also have to guess based on like my personality. So, some things I think are awkward, some things I don't think are awkward. And that differs depending on like who you are. So maybe you would find something really awkward and I wouldn't, or maybe the reverse. Like maybe you would think this is fine, but I would find it awkward. So anyways, don't worry too much about if you don't know what awkwardness means. It's like hard to describe with words, but it's easy to describe with stories because everybody, regardless of what language you grew up with, the feeling of awkwardness. Or like I've never met another human being that doesn't understand what awkwardness means. So with that, let's go and take a short little break, and then we're going to get started with some nice awkward stories. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I feel like I'm so excited to tell you these stories, even though these stories are all just like awkward, embarrassing stories about myself. But again, we're going to be playing a game. So in this game, I'm going to be telling the story. And then after each story, we're going to take a short little pause. And I want you to take a guess of how awkward it is. And hopefully it's kind of fun for you to just kind of imagine yourself in this situation. How awkward would it be for you? And then you can guess like, oh, how awkward was it for me? So let's go ahead and get started. And let me give you a short little example. This one's like the practice round. Hold on, let me turn off the AC. It's getting kind of cold. Okay, so I'm going to give you like a short little practice round. So this one should be easy. But so this one, again, these are all true stories. But, I live in Japan now, and I used to live in the US. But in Japan, when you take the train, you have to like scan in at the ticket gate. Like at the kaisatsuguchi, the ticket gate. And then I use like something called an IC card, which is like a prepaid transit card. And then like I scan in, and then when you scan in and you get on the train, and then you go to wherever you want. And then when you leave, you scan again at the exit gate. And then when you leave, then it automatically calculates like how much money like you need to pay. So maybe I had like, I don't know, 2,000 yen on the card, and then I go in, and then when I go out, it automatically deducts like whatever, 140 yen or however much it costs for the trip. And it's like pretty nice. But if you go really, really far, like you get on the train and you ride the train for like, I don't know, an hour and a half, and then you like switch trains, you go to a different train, ride that one for a long time, then it costs more than like a little bit. It ends up costing a bit more. So then when you leave, if you don't have enough money, then you get what I call the loser rejection. And the loser rejection is like you try to scan and you try to leave, and then like the gate closes. All right, normally the gate's open, and then when you scan, it's like beep, and then it gives you like a green check mark, and it tells you how much money you have left. But then if you get the loser rejection, then you go beep, and then like the gate closes. Okay, like it turns out there's these little things in there, and that it blocks your path, and it doesn't want you to leave. And it's like, oh, you don't have enough money. And then like they have a little screen, and it says it in Japanese, it says it in English. It's like insufficient funds, like you need more money. And there's like a little picture of like a person that's like bowing, that's like, we're sorry, but you can't leave. And so I call this the loser rejection, because when you get that, you feel like a loser and you got rejected from leaving. So this is like the awkward part. Okay, so like you try to leave and you can't leave. And then it goes bing boom, bing boom, bing boom, and you're like, oh no. And then maybe there's people behind you. If it's like a crowded station, like Shinjuku Station or Tokyo Station, there's definitely lots of people, and they're like ready to scan behind you, right? Because normally it'll take like 1 or 2 seconds to scan. But then when you get rejected, like you can't go forward, and all the people behind you, they also get stuck. So then they're like kind of looking at you like, like, okay. And then they probably end up going to like a different ticket gate, like the neighboring one, because they're like, oh, this person has got the loser rejection, so they're going to take some time. And then you have to go like charge money, or you have to go like talk to someone to go like adjust the fare or something like that. I mean, it's actually not that bad. Okay, so this one's like the practice round, so I'm just going to tell you the answer straight up. It's not really the answer, but that's how I see it. And I put this at like 1 out of 10. So how awkward is it on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being not awkward and 10 being like very, very awkward. I put that at 1 out of 10. Like it's really no big deal. You feel a little bit bad for the people who lined up behind you. And then in some cases, if everyone's going really, really fast, then like as you go, when you get the loser rejection, like the person behind you, you know, they didn't see you get rejected, and then they're ready to scan too, but then they bump into you, oof, and then they like, you know, bump into your butt, and it's like, oh sorry. That one would be more awkward, but I've never felt that before. That's a story that I have never experienced. So, but I've gotten like the loser rejection, and then I go like charge money, and then I leave, and it's fine. So again, that one was 1 out of 10. And now let's get into like the first real story. And I've got like 4 or 5 like real stories for you. So this one is what I call the sushi story. And let me go ahead and give a bunch of background here. And this might be some useful information for people who are visiting Japan as well. But so I was eating at Sushi Zanmai. So Sushi Zanmai is the name of a restaurant. It's like a chain restaurant, and it's like a sit-down sushi restaurant. So sit down meaning like you go to the table and you sit down, and then when you order, then people deliver stuff to you. It's different from like the kaiten sushi, like the revolving sushi. So kaiten sushi, for example, there's this place called Sushiro, or there's this place called Kura Sushi. It's weird saying it in English. And then there's another one called Hama Sushi. And then, so those places have a revolving sushi. So there's like a conveyor belt, kind of like an escalator, but it's flat. And it just keeps rotating around. And then you'll see like sushi, and you can take it. And then if you take it, then, you know, you keep the plate. And then at the end, you pay based on how much you ate. But the conveyor belt sushi, like you sit down at the table, and you don't really like order from a person. There's usually a tablet, or you can just take from the belt. And then it's a pretty straightforward way to like eat your sushi. But if you go to the sit down restaurant, then usually for sushi, you have 2 options. One is you can sit at the table, and there's usually like a tablet or maybe like a sheet of paper where you order. And that's fine. That's like the normal experience that you might expect. The tablet usually has like multiple languages, so not just Japanese, but also English. But then if you sit, like there's another place you can sit at, and that's like at the counter. So like the counter is like right in front of all the sushi chefs, and the sushi chefs are like making the sushi, and then they bring it out. And it's kind of fun, but it requires you to speak Japanese. So I'm not sure if you're going to be able to predict where the story is going to go. But like 2 years ago, I ended up sitting at the sushi bar. Like I wanted to sit at the counter. It's like I went to the sushi zanbai place, and I've been there multiple times, and they're like, "Oh, do you want to sit at like the table, or do you want to sit at the counter?" And then I was like, "Oh, dude, I've been studying Japanese some time," and I'm like, "Yeah," I'm like hyping myself up. I'm like encouraging myself, and I'm like, "Okay, I'll sit at the counter." And then I sat at the counter, and there's no tablet. Okay, there's no paper. You have to order directly by talking to the sushi chef, and this is kind of cool if it goes well. But let's continue the story. So I ordered in Japanese, and I really like salmon. Okay, I'm like an expert on salmon because I've eaten a lot of salmon. I've done a bunch of cooking stuff with salmon during COVID because I was bored, but I really like salmon. So I was like, okay, let's start out with 10 pieces of salmon. So number one, like this is probably a little bit weird. Like most people don't order 10 of the same thing immediately when they sit down, but I do because I like salmon. So I was like, sake jumai kudasai. And then so sake is like a salmon. And then ju is like the word for 10. So like sake jumai kudasai. And then in this moment, I'm like kind of hoping, I'm like, oh, I hope they understood what I meant. And then the employee, like the guy who's making the thing, like he instantly understood. He was like, okay. And he repeated exactly what I said. He was like, sake jumai kudasai. And then I was like, oh yes, this worked. And I was like really happy, right? And I was like celebrating. Inside, I wasn't like doing anything else. Inside my mind, I was like, yay, because I successfully ordered in Japanese. And then I was so happy, like when I was celebrating that, like the employee, like they brought me sake, like not like salmon, which is what I ordered, but like sake, like Japanese alcohol. And then I was thinking like, oh, okay, so maybe if you sit at like the bar counter, you get like free alcohol, or maybe because I ordered successfully in Japanese, they're like helping me celebrate. And I got this little sake thing. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. And then I guess, okay, so I got it. So I started drinking a little bit. And I don't normally drink that much, but like, this is the celebration, so I'm drinking. And then I waited for like 5-10 minutes, and then no salmon ever came. And then I was thinking, where's my salmon? Like I ordered salmon, right? And then I looked at the menu, and I looked at the sake, and the sake, there's actually quite a bit of sake. And then I realized that actually there's a sake called sake junmai. And what I ordered was like, I wanted 10 pieces of salmon, but instead I accidentally like mispronounced it, and I used like some wrong words, and I ended up ordering like this alcohol that has the exact same name of what I said wrong. So then then this is an awkward situation, right? So the situation is I wanted salmon, and I tried to order salmon, and then they understood it as, oh, you want the sake, so they gave me sake. And then I felt so awkward because I was thinking, oh, they were giving me the sake for free because they like me, because it's like my 5th time or 6th time here. So maybe they're like, oh, this is a regular customer, let's give it to them. And I was thinking that, but actually no, like they just gave me what they thought I ordered. And then afterwards, then like what's even more awkward is like I still want my salmon, right? Like I didn't eat dinner, and here I am just drinking this alcohol that I didn't even really want. And then I was thinking, okay, so now if I order the salmon, like if I order 10 pieces of salmon again, then they're going to know that I made a mistake with this ordering thing. And I don't want them to know that I made a mistake. So then what I did was, instead of ordering 10 pieces of salmon, I ordered 8 pieces of salmon. And I looked it up like on my phone too. I was like, oh, okay. So like jumai, in Japanese, the counter word for like flat things, like sheets of paper, you can use like mai, ichimai, nimai, sanmai, but you can't use that for salmon. Like I thought salmon was flat, because like it is kind of flat, and you lay it on rice and you have like a salmon nigiri, but that's not how you count salmon. So like I said like jumai, and that's like incorrect. And also like salmon, like raw salmon is different from cooked salmon in Japanese. In English, you just have like, raw salmon or cooked salmon. Like you usually say like raw or cooked, and it's specified. In Japanese, there are different words. So one is like sake, which is like the cooked salmon. And then like for raw salmon, it's just called salmon. So then I didn't know that. And then so I looked it up, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's like really embarrassing. So then what I did was I ordered 8 pieces of salmon. Why did I order 8? I really wanted 10, but if I ordered 10, then they might piece it together. They might know that I messed it up. So then I just ordered 8 pieces of salmon. And then that one worked too. I was like, salmon, hakko onegai shimasu. And then they're like, okay, yeah, sure. And then they're thinking, yeah, this guy likes sake and this guy likes salmon. Like, that's very normal. And I never got caught, but it was really awkward for me. Like, I felt pretty awkward about it. So that is like the main story. So again, to summarize the story, I want you to rate it. I want you to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, how embarrassing it seems. But this story, again, the summary is I went to Sushi Zanmai and I tried to order 10 pieces of salmon and I messed up and then I ended up getting sake. And I just felt so awkward that like I got it wrong and I didn't want them to think that I got it wrong. I don't know why I felt embarrassed, but I just felt embarrassed. And then I was like drinking the sake, like, yeah, I ordered this. But the truth is I didn't really want it. I was just drinking it because I didn't want to admit my mistake. And then afterwards, I ordered 8 pieces of salmon. I got my salmon and I never told them that I didn't want to order the sake. And like, I left that restaurant. I never ever told them that I didn't want the sake. I was like, yeah, I wanted the sake. And I paid like whatever. It was like 1,000 yen or something like that for the sake. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how embarrassing would you feel if this happened to you? And some people might be thinking like, oh, I wouldn't let it get to that point. Like the most reasonable thing to do is when you get the thing that you didn't order, you say, oh, excuse me, I didn't order this. And, that's like a very reasonable response, but like I didn't feel comfortable enough in Japanese to say that. Like it takes me a long time to think about it. I mean, this was a long time ago. So I was like, oh, like they gave me this sake thing and I was like, oh, cool. Is this free? I didn't even ask if it's free. I was thinking if it's free because I didn't have the capability to like speak my thoughts in Japanese at the time. So that's the situation. And now, go ahead and give it a little rating. I'll give you like 3 seconds of silence and you can think about it. How awkward is it on a scale of 1 to 10? All right. So for me, I'm going to give it like a 2 or maybe a 3. It's probably a 2. So it's not that embarrassing. Like, it's kind of funny, but I mean, for me, I guess I just forgave myself. I was like, oh, this is awkward. And now I know that, this is how you order salmon. You can't use these words and stuff like that. But I mean, also like I'm at a restaurant and like, it's not like I embarrassed myself in front of like other people that I knew. And maybe that would be worse, but they're all like employees. They don't really care. And also I never got caught. They never knew that I accidentally ordered the sake. So I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10, like 2 out of 10 awkwardness. So I'll be back with some more stories, but let's take a short little music break here. All right, so let's continue. And this is a story number 3. This is the date story. So again, story number 1 was the rejected at the ticket gate, and that one was like a 1 out of 10. And then we've got the sushi story where I accidentally ordered like sake, like Japanese alcohol, instead of sushi, which is what I wanted, and gave that one like a 2 or 3 out of 10. And now this is story number 3, the date story. And everybody likes talking about dating. Everyone likes talking about types, romance, stuff like that. So this story is going to be kind of like that. I'm going to be telling about like basically the first date I ever went on. And there's a lot of like cliffhangers. I'm going to tell you the whole story here without a break, but I feel like the way that I'm talking about it, it sounds like TV where someone's like, oh, find out in the next episode, like if they end up getting married or something like that. But I'm just going to try to tell the story the best I can. So I was a freshman in college. And that's so freshman meaning it's my first year in college. Remember, it's freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, in that order. And then I met this girl. It sounds kind of awkward now that I start talking about it. But I met this girl. I forgot how we met. I think it was just like maybe near a cafeteria or something. But I remember talking to her for a pretty short amount of time, maybe like 5 or 10 minutes or so. And like we had a lot in common. So I went to like a boarding school in high school. So in high school, it's usually 4 years. So again, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, it's the same like names as like college. But for my junior and senior year, so my last 2 years of high school, I went to a boarding school. So boarding school meaning like you live there. You live there. You don't live at home. You live at the boarding school. And it's like really close to school. You like walk to school and you walk back to the dorms. It's kind of like mini college. And that school was also very focused on science and math. It was a very serious school. It's actually so serious that like you can't use your cell phones and you can't use Facebook. And like people called it jail. And it's like kind of a little bit true. I mean, they even had like metal bars and cages outside the windows so that you can't leave the campus. And they had like a fence and stuff. Actually, let's not talk about that. We're talking about like some other stuff. So I went to like this boarding school and I had this experience. And also this girl had the same experience. She also went to like a boarding school that was very focused on math and science. But her school like wasn't in the same place as mine. Like I grew up in the US. She grew up in Italy, I think. And then also her parents were like Chinese. So then she speaks Chinese and also I can speak Chinese. So this is like, oh, wow, we have a lot in common. And it was pretty nice. Like I was like, oh, really excited to make a new friend. But we talked for a really short amount of time. And then it was like, okay, bye-bye. I think we exchanged Facebook because, you know, back in the US, I probably used Facebook more. Now in Japan, I feel like people use Instagram more or Line for messaging. But we exchanged Facebook. And then one day she asked me, she was like, oh, hey, like, do you want to catch a meal or something? And I was like, oh yeah, sure, that's great. And so, you know, she's like asking me to eat something and it was very casual. And so we picked a day and then, you know, we set the day. So then I'm going to go eat with her. And I remember like the day that we were going to eat, the time, it was right before like I had like a tennis class. So, and in hindsight, so looking back at it now, I shouldn't have picked that time, but I don't know. I didn't really think about it that much. I was stupid. Okay, you have to forgive me. So I picked like a time before tennis. I think it was like an hour before tennis. So then and when I go play tennis, I just wear like, you know, my tennis stuff. So like just like my tennis shorts and like my racket and then like my sneakers and then my socks, which are like really old and all the color stuff doesn't really match. Like I never ever cared about fashion really. I mean, even now I don't care that much. But like, so I was just wearing like my tennis stuff and then I went to this date. I didn't know it was a date. I had no idea it was a date. Okay. And then she picked the restaurant and she did the reservation, which is really nice. I don't think I even thanked her for it, but she picked like a fancy vegetarian restaurant. And like, I don't actually, at the time I was thinking like, oh, I don't want to go to like a fancy place, but I never told her that. And then, so she picked like a fancy place and I didn't really look it up until it was actually time to go. So I looked it up on Google Maps and then I went there and I was like, oh, it's a fancy restaurant. And it has like a bunch of dollar signs, meaning it's going to be more expensive. And then I went there and then it was like a really fancy restaurant. And like all the people there are like kind of older and they're all really well dressed, like wearing like suits and dresses and stuff. And, you know, like I'm a college student, I'm a first year college student and like all my friends and everyone around me, like they just wear like, you know, just jeans and a t-shirt. It's like very, very casual. Nobody really cares about that kind of stuff. But then I saw like my friend or like, I don't even remember her name. I feel so bad. But, so basically my date, and I didn't know it was a date yet. But she was wearing like a fancy, like white dress. And I mean, she looked nice. She had like makeup and stuff. Her hair she looked completely different than when we first met. And then like, you know, so there's like kind of multiple feelings here. Number one, it's like, oh, it's wow, she looks nice. But then number two, which is the bigger feeling, I just felt really awkward because I was like, oh, I feel really out of place. Everyone here is so fancy. I'm not fancy. Okay. She's wearing like a nice dress. She looks nice. I don't look nice. I'm wearing like sneakers and like some tennis stuff. And like, I didn't even have a backpack. I just was carrying like a tennis racket. I have my Prince tennis racket. That's the brand of the racket. My Prince tennis racket. And then, so I look like I don't know, like a kid. And then so I went and I met her and she was like, oh, hi. And like, you know, come over here. And then, it was really awkward. And also I think like right from the very beginning, she was asking like some kind of like deeper personal questions right from the very beginning. She was like, oh, hey, so like, what kind of girlfriend are you looking for? And then I was just like, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. And it was like, it was really awkward for me. And I think, realistically, like, now I'm older and I've experienced more life and stuff. If somebody asked me that, then I would probably understand the situation more. Probably the right thing to do is to just be honest about my feelings and be like, oh, sorry, I didn't know that we were going to a fancy place. I didn't know that everyone would be dressed up. I didn't know that this was going to be a date. Is this a date? Like, I should have asked that, but I'm just too awkward. I'm so awkward that I'm unable to ask that question to be like, oh, is this a date? So then the whole time, like, I like didn't we didn't talk about whether or not this was a date, but she like asked a lot of questions about like, oh, like, what kind of girlfriend are you looking for? And then like, what are your plans for the future? Like, do you want to get married, or do you want to have kids or something? And I was like, dude, I don't know, man. Like, I haven't thought about it yet. And then I was also too awkward to say it like that. So I would just be like, oh yeah, like normal. Yeah, normal, whatever. So I had like a really awkward time. And also like talking about it now, I feel really bad because like, we had like a good experience, and she probably thought, oh, you seem like a potential candidate for me. Like maybe we can date. And then I like didn't do my part. I showed up. I look like trash. I have my I have my tennis stuff on, and I had to go in an hour. I don't even think I told her like I have to go play tennis. But then eventually I was like, okay, so I have to go play tennis. I'm sorry. And then like I paid for half the meal, and then I went to play tennis, and like she probably thought that like I was just making that up, but actually like I was wearing like the tennis stuff, and I actually did have tennis class. And then oh, by the way, the end of the story is like when we were parting ways, when we were leaving and saying bye, a lot of the times when you say bye to friends, like you say like, oh, hey, like, it was really great to see you. It was really fun. And we should totally do this again next time. Like you give these kind of like warm feelings, like thanking them, and then also like, oh, let's do something again next time. But I think she and I kind of felt the same way, which was kind of like, oh, like, thank you for meeting me today. And I was like, yeah, thank you for meeting me today. And then it was kind of awkward because normally you say something like, oh, we should do this again. But I don't think neither one of us wanted to do it again for the second time. And I feel bad. Like, I was kind of young back then, and I honestly, I don't even know how she felt. And we never talked again after that. So that was like, this is like the first date I've ever been on in my life, probably. And I didn't even know that it was a date. And then I went to go play tennis, and I didn't really think about it. But then like, I think a couple days later, I told my friend about it. My friend was like, dude, you went on a date. And I was like, it's a date? I didn't know it was a date. Because like, in American culture, if nobody says it's a date, then I think it's not a date. But then like some of these things are very, very date-like, and I don't know. But anyways, let's go ahead and end the story there. It makes me feel embarrassed to talk about it. And then let's go ahead. I want you to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. And just like in your mind, or you can say it out loud, whatever. How awkward is this on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 meaning not awkward at all, 10 meaning very awkward. Now, let me give you like a couple seconds of silence to think about it, and then I'll also think about how awkward it was, and then I'll tell you how awkward I felt. All right, so I hope you have a guess, and I wonder if you're right. I'm gonna give that one like a 7 out of 10 awkward. I mean, the good news is like nobody was like seriously offended. No one was hurt. No one said anything mean. Like I didn't say anything mean. I was just like, oh, I don't know if I want kids or something like that. And then she was just thinking like, oh, okay, so this dude like didn't really dress up for this date, and he's like an idiot. But nobody was mean or anything. So I think it was fine. And also at the end, when we said goodbye, like neither one of us was like, hey, we should hang out tomorrow. Are you free tomorrow? Then that would be awkward. If one person wants to hang out and one person doesn't want to hang out, then it's more awkward. But it wasn't like that. We both knew that, oh, this was very awkward. And, like I personally felt like I messed up. So I'm going to give it like a 7 out of 10 awkwardness. So there you go. You got a little juicy story about my romance. But I never saw that person again. It's a story from a long time ago. So anyways, let's take a short little break here, and then I'll be back with one last story. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the last part of this episode. So again, to review, we have come across a couple different stories of awkwardness, and all these are true stories. So don't make fun of me if you see me in real life. But number 1 was the sample one, which is like what I call the loser rejection at the ticket gate. And that one's like not really awkward. And then we have the sushi story. So like I went to a sushi restaurant, and then I tried to order salmon. I failed. I didn't get the salmon, and then I didn't want to admit my mistake. So that's like also kind of decently awkward, 2 or 3 out of 10 awkward. And then we just moved on to the most recent story, which was like the date that I went on that I didn't even know it was a date, and that one was pretty awkward. But now I've got another awkward story for you, and I want you to think about it, and it's a good thing that you're not here in front of me, because if I were to tell you live in person, you would probably like start laughing, and then I would feel even more awkward. But let's go ahead and tell a story. So I started playing guitar in like 10th grade. So 10th grade is the second year of high school. So that's a sophomore. Remember, the 4 years of high school is the same as the 4 years of college. You call it freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. So I was a sophomore, and I started playing guitar, and I really liked rock songs. Like I really liked like Green Day. In particular, the band Green Day. Like I was like, oh, they're so cool. And then so I actually ended up signing up for like a talent show, and I wonder if you know where the story's gonna go. I ended up signing up for this talent show, and I was gonna play guitar and sing, and I was gonna play a Green Day song, and this is in 10th grade. So I was gonna play the song 21 Guns. So I don't know if you know the song. It's a Green Day song. If you know Green Day, you probably know 21 Guns. If you don't know who Green Day is, then you probably don't know. But you can listen to it. It's like it's a rock song that I like from when I was a kid. So I performed it at the talent show, and let's see if you know where the story goes. It actually went pretty well. Well as it could go. I mean, I had played guitar for like 3 months, maybe 4 months, and then I signed up for this thing and I played, and I didn't really mess up at any part, I think. I mean, I don't think I did a great job, but like it was as good as I wanted it to be. So it's actually fine. Okay, so this one I didn't really mess up. But okay, here's the part 2 of the story. But after that, I think like 1 or 2 years later, I ended up going to a different school because I went to boarding school. So boarding school is where you live at the school, and it was in a completely different area. So like I like moved there and I made new friends. It was actually a really good experience for me. Like I felt like I grew as a person. But at the boarding school, then I signed up for kind of like this like performance thing there. It was called Wednesday Assembly, but just think of it like a talent show. And so like I was signed up for this talent show, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna play 21 Guns. And then so then I'm like smiling and kind of laughing because I just feel so awkward. It's like reaching that point of embarrassment, of awkwardness, where it starts to affect you. I think most people, when you feel really awkward, like you kind of laugh, you kind of move, you have this physical reaction. So I performed 21 Guns, and the guitar part, it's fine. Like I knew that part pretty well. And then also like I kind of know how the song goes. So like singing is also fine. But the problem was I forgot the lyrics to the song. So there's this one part that's like, when you're at the end of the road. And so when you're at the end of the road, and it's supposed to be like a metaphor, right? But when you're at the end of the road, I forgot what happens, like what comes next after that. So I just kept singing the same lyrics. I was like, oh, when you're at the end of the road, when you're at the end of the road. And like, after 2 or 3 or 4 times, everybody starts to know, like, okay, this dude forgot the lyrics. Ooh, that's so awkward. So like I was performing this thing, and again, this is in front of the whole school. Okay, so everyone that goes to the school, all the students, all the teachers, even like the janitor, even the lunch lady was probably there. And then like there are even staff people that you don't really see, that you don't see every day, because they like have like the night shift or something. Like they sometimes come and watch this thing. And they see me and they're like, oh, wow, he's singing. It's fine. And then like, 30 seconds in, like Chris forgot the lyrics. So I'm just sitting there like, when you're at the, and I want you to imagine this, okay? Imagine that you are in the audience, and like you have your friend, or like your student friend, or maybe you're not really a friend, but like this person because you went to school with them, and they're performing the song, and while they're performing, it's okay. And then 30 seconds later, you're like, wait a minute, I think he's been singing the same stuff for the past 30 seconds. Oh, I think he forgot the words. That's definitely not how the song goes. And then what you feel here, it's something called cringe. So cringe is like when something is awkward, but it's so awkward that like you kind of almost have a physical reaction. You want to like curl your body up. Like me, as I tell the story, like I start laughing because it's kind of cringe, and then my body kind of wants to, I just kind of want to curl up into a ball and like and not tell anyone about this story. But cringe actually also works as secondhand. So you don't have to be the person that experienced it. Like I'm telling you the story, and then it's cringe for me, but it can be cringe for you too. You can also say, oh, wow, that's so cringe. And that's because it's just so awkward that it like spills over to you. Like just imagining this makes you feel the awkwardness too. So that one, this is called, ow, my foot hurts. My foot hurts because I'm cringing. But yeah, so that's cringe. And like in this one, you can take a guess of how awkward it is from a scale of 1 to 10. I'm gonna have to put it at like a 9. This is maybe the most embarrassing thing. No, I think there's probably more, but I'm not going to talk about anything higher than a 9 on this podcast. It's too much for me. My heart can't take it. But again, so the word of the day for the whole theme of this podcast episode was awkwardness. And what happens when it's super, super awkward? Then you can call it cringe. And it's kind of mean, like to say, "Oh, that's cringe." And there are other situations. For example, if like somebody says something and it's like really, really awkward, then sometimes you can say, "Oh, that's cringe." But cringe is usually kind of negative, and it's not that bad. But use it if you want, whatever. So I told you a bunch of these stories, and it was so embarrassing, and like my heart needs to rest because I spent too much time embarrassing myself on this podcast, which everyone in the world could listen to for free. So, so with that, thanks so much for listening to Kuli English Podcast, and I hope you enjoyed these embarrassing, awkward stories. If you want to share them with people, like I have mixed feelings, right? Because I want people to get free English practice and have fun while learning English. But at the same time, it's so awkward, it's so embarrassing that I don't know if I want that many people to know about it. Yeah. But anyways, do what you want. Share it if you want. Don't share it if you want. And, good luck with your English studies. And we'll see you next time for Kuli English Podcast.